We're here, we're live, and we're going to say goodbye to Gleyber Torres.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Stacey Gotsulias. With me, as always, my co-host, Brian McKeon, who's still in Florida.
Still in Florida, in Tampa, flying home tonight.
Yeah, before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, although you already are because you're looking at our faces. Like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. So today's show, our live special show for the last Monday of 2024, we'll be comparing how the Yankees have done this offseason to the other AL East teams, because some of them have not done anything, and we're going to discuss that. We have an interesting option for backup catcher. If you're looking on YouTube right now, you see it's Ben Rice. We're going to talk about Ben Rice as backup catcher. But first, we say goodbye to Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, I wonder how Gleyber Torres' career as a Yankee will be viewed in 10, 15 years, right? Because you trade over for him in a kind of a lost season in 2016. They move on from Aroldis Chapman just for the intention of bringing him back. And I think when they acquired Gleyber Torres, we were all unbelievably excited. Right? You acquired the top prospect in all of baseball. He's immediately a spark plug with AAA, immediately. And then he gets injured really quickly, and we all anticipate his debut. And his first couple seasons in the big leagues, he was awesome. He was so good. And then it tailed off a little bit, but he never fully tailed off and became a bad player. He just tailed off and wasn't the player that we all expected him to come into. So very strange. But I look back on Gleyber Torres' career as a Yankee as there was a lot of success while he was here as a team. He knows how to play in big games. It's a good acquisition for a team like Detroit. And very interesting how Detroit now has the two top Cubs prospects at that time at shortstop and second base.
Yeah.
So I loved Gleyber's career as a Yankee. I wish it would have, worked out differently, but I don't think it's terrible. I would have liked to have him back, but I don't think it's terrible that he's not back either.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's not shocking that they didn't bring him back. But also when you hear what Detroit paid for him, as you were saying, when he first came out after the injury, which was a fluke injury, the sliding into home thing and tearing the UCL, that was a fluke thing. But he comes out right out of the gate, doubles machine and just really like a good player. And you're just like, wow, he's really solid. Okay. Then he has that crazy 2019, which I talk about this all the time, was totally inflated by juiced balls because he never returned to that level of playing. But it was amazing watching him do what he did.
He almost did 40 homers.
For them to not even entertain the idea, he got 1 year, $15 million. You couldn't do that for 1 year of Gleyber Torres and have a set second baseman, because the infield is still kind of up in the air as to who you're going to have playing certain positions. And I understand that they wanted to move on from him, but I'm kind of shocked at how abrupt it was. Like there wasn't even an offer. I'm kind of shocked by that because yes, he had a rough first half, but Gleyber Torres doesn't get on base as much as he does in the playoffs. The guys behind him don't do what they do because he's not on base, and they don't make it as far in the playoffs as they did. So it seems weird to me. I really thought that his second half and his playoff performance would at least have entertained some sort of offer from the Yankees, maybe a 1 year, because we were talking about maybe he'd get 3 years, maybe like 3 years, 45, 3 years, 50, something like that. And when this came out, I was like, the Yankees couldn't do that. So they were clearly moving on from him, and that's just disappointing.
They had made this decision clearly months ago.
Mhm.
I think they had known by the end of the year that they were not bringing Gleyber Torres back. It's sad to see it that happen that way. And I agree with you because that's the thing, right? 1 year is $15 million. That any team would have signed up for that. So clearly it wasn't about the money for them. They had made their decision that they were not bringing Gleyber Torres back. Sometimes having a guy, in the clubhouse, being around him, knowing the kind of player he is, if they determine that they don't think he's going to flourish and be this great player, then, it's unfortunate from a Yankee fan perspective because of him coming up and what the thought of what he was going to become. I was sitting here, years ago after that first or second year, and I was like, give him a 7-year deal for $200 million right now.
Yeah,
because those kind of players, you've seen it happen with the Ozzie Albies of the world and the Ronald Acuñas of the world that are signed to these really long-term deals for deals that 10 years from now wind up becoming bargains, and they're getting paid way less than their market value because you sign a guy while he's young, and at that age it winds up being a super huge bargain, and they're looking for the money. I don't think Gleyber Torres would have been against that kind of deal with the Yankees. And I think after year 2, is there a Yankee fan out there that wouldn't have been able to justify that kind of deal?
right.
I don't think so. With the power numbers, with the double numbers, with the average being high. But it just spiraled. I think it really started to spiral the year that he really started to struggle on defense. The shortstop move might have ruined Gleyber Torres. Because his defense clearly very much struggled at shortstop, and that spilled over into the batter's box. And he was never the same player after that. So I don't know. I'm not going to blame the Yankees for that, but I think toying with a guy's position like that really didn't help him in the grand scheme of his career.
Right. Brian Hoke tweeted out over the weekend something that Gleyber Torres said about how the Yankees didn't give him an offer. So we're just going to read it because not everyone is on social media. After the World Series, I got a lot of phone calls from other teams and just focused to get an opportunity in another place. I feel like I have to play where somebody wants to give the best for me, and I just want to be available to do the best for the team. I've got great friends there, great communication with the entire organization. I feel proud of myself for being with the Yankees for 7 years. Now I'm with Detroit and just really happy they gave me the opportunity to play next year. I think they have other priorities and I'm not on the list. I'm good.
Yeah, so I think he felt slighted by the Yankees. Can't really blame him. But, at the same flip side, I can't really blame the Yankees.
Right.
It's not like Gleyber Torres was this can't-miss player like Juan Soto, who just chose to go to a different team and they were all after him. Gleyber Torres had his shortcomings, and I agree with you. I would have brought him back. At that deal, I wouldn't have had a problem bringing him back at 1 year, $15 million. So I'm not going to argue with that one. But Gleyber Torres definitely had his shortcomings with the Yankees. He, led the league in errors this year. He's definitely had a lot of defensive mishaps. Base running has not been a strong suit of his. His power numbers have decreased every single year, and I agree with you. I think his 38 home run year is more dedicated to juice balls than anything else. But his numbers still have decreased. He never matched the RBI totals that he did in those years too. So he has decreased as a player that they thought he was originally. So I can't necessarily sit here and completely blame the Yankees as if they just, this is not the Baltimore Orioles letting Corbin Burns walk. And we'll get to that later. That's not what this is. This is the Yankees determining that they don't have room for this type of player and they want to go in a different direction. And as Yankee fans, we have no choice but to trust the guys who are in charge of making those decisions. And if they made that decision on Gleyber Torres, it's not like Gleyber Torres is this can't miss player that I'm going to have a huge problem with them making that decision on. That's the decision they came to, and we're going to have to live with it as Yankee fans. And I think it would have been great if he was back on a 1 year deal. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that he's also not back, though.
So now what do they do? We'll talk about this quickly, but what do they do second base? Do they move Jazz there? Do they do the DJ Oswaldo Cabrera combo at third? Because, now Bregman is tied to other teams, not the Yankees. The talk on Arenado is cooled off. So can they get away with not doing anything to upgrade at third base because of the other moves that they made so far this offseason?
It's a great question. I do believe that they're viewing the end of their offseason as in the end of July. As in, they can go into opening day with someone else at third base and look to fix that go at the end of July. depending on what happens. I can't imagine it's DJ LeMahieu. And I do believe that the prognosis on LeMahieu is going to be, we are going to let him show up to spring training because he's still under contract. We're going to see what he gives us. If he is a nothing in spring training, they're going to move on before opening day. And I genuinely believe that. And is it Oswaldo? I don't know. I can't imagine it. They've never really given him the opportunity to flourish. So why would they all of a sudden go into the year saying, oh, we're going to give you 162? That would be weird too. I do get a sense, though, that it is going to be Jazz at second base. I just feel like, why not put him at his top position fielding wise? Why not put him at the place he's most comfortable? You're going to keep that lefty bat in the lineup. I do think the upgrade is going to be at third base. I just don't know who it's going to be anymore, because we've had episodes, Stacey, where we've discussed Arenado, Bregman, which one do they go after? It doesn't look like they're after either big name at this point.
Right. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. We send out lineups during the season, roster moves, breaking news, so you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. Coming up, Ben Rice, backup catcher? Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Because that happened to me a few times. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And I know I'm not the only one who has this happen, but Rocket Money made it so easy for me to track them all down. And it's basically like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app. It helps and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending. It helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit in 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. I'm sure I'm a big chunk of that 500 million. One of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore. I've already saved a ton of money. It's great. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember, every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions under our videos during the week, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club and get top priority on Fan Mail Friday. The link is in the description. So for this segment, speaking of Fan Mail Friday, we had 2 Fan Mail Friday questions last week. And I thought, instead of just spending 2 seconds answering the questions, that we could actually dedicate an entire segment to the questions, because I thought, this is interesting. And I thought it was funny that an insider and a YouTube viewer had the same question, basically. So this was from insider Bobby Santoro. Wanted your take. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. Wait for the graphic to go. There we go. Wanted your take on Ben Rice being the backup catcher. He caught in the minors and has a hose to throw out runners. Wouldn't mind him backing up Wells. And then from YouTube, Elusive HD. Fan Mail Friday question. Hey guys, hope you had a wonderful Christmas. I did. Did you, Brian?
I did, yeah.
Okay. There's a handful of moves that led me to believe this. Let me know what you guys think. With Goldschmidt and Belly added, DJ and Waldo still here, and Trevi gone, do you think the Yankees will return Ben Rice to his natural position at catcher and have him backing up Wells? Don't see a lane for him otherwise. Have a happy new year. You too, Elusive HD.
It's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know. So he got drafted as a catcher, I believe. He was up through the minors as a catcher, so it's not like it's a change in position. It definitely is a change in workout habits and stuff, because there's no way Ben Rice over the last year or so has been working out as a first baseman. He's as a catcher. He's been working out as a first baseman mostly. Mm-hmm. He does have the arm for a catcher. I don't know if my complaint on Ben Rice was his offensive numbers. I think once the major league level adjusted to him, his offensive numbers really slipped off. Now, I agree with you. He didn't necessarily – there's definitely a point out there that he definitely didn't get the reps that he needed to really prove. But his numbers were, slacking. 50 games, 178 plate appearances, 171 batting average, 264 on base, 7 homers, 6 doubles, a 72 OPS plus. Not wonderful. 11.2% walk rate. I will say this. If his natural position is catcher and they believe that he could still do that at the major league level, and if he's up to par defensively at a major league level, remember, he wasn't called up as a catcher. He was called up as a first baseman. If they believe he's at par defensively, I don't think this is a terrible move. He's going into his second year under team control. He's not arbitration eligible. He's under team control through 2030. I don't think it's a crazy move. And they do clearly believe in his bat because they like what he has at the plate. If he can improve at the plate just a little bit, and again, you don't expect much out of a catcher anyway. I mean,
or
think
backup.
Exactly. I mean, think about Kyle Higashioka, who was the Yankees' backup for years and years and years. You never really expected much out of him offensively. So I don't think they're expecting much out of Ben Rice offensively if he goes into the catcher role. I don't think this is a crazy thought. And we came out and you looked at him as a first baseman, and every Yankee fan kind of freaked out. The only thing is, who is their backup first baseman right now?
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't have one either. So unless you're going to use him as a utility catcher first baseman, which I don't think has ever been done,
right,
at least for a full season, you're either switching him directly to catcher or directly to backup first base. That's the only thing. So I don't know where you're going to go in what direction for that reason. I don't hate this. I don't.
Yeah, I think that it might be better for him to be the backup catcher. It's his natural position. There's less pressure to perform as a backup catcher. Last year, there was a lot of unexpected pressure because he was helping out, taking over for Anthony Rizzo, who was hurt. So he was thrust into this position at the major league level at first base.
As a starter.
So, I understand why it didn't work out as well as people would have wanted it. I think if he comes up in 2025 with fewer expectations and less pressure, working out with Wells, being the backup, I think this might actually be better for him. And yes, who the heck is going to be the backup first baseman? Oh gosh, I really hope that this isn't a situation where you spoke about it in segment 1, where you don't think DJ LeMahieu is going to be much of anything, but you know how the Yankees like to hold on to people, even if they're not doing well, and they feel bad because he's a nice guy and he did things in the past. And what if DJ's third and they decide, hey, how about we make Oswaldo Cabrera the backup first baseman?
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen or if they're going to try and, push DJ back into that role they originally signed him for and make him the backup utility player that they like.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to wind up being. What's your take on it? Do you think DJ LeMahieu, if I had to tell you to bet all the money to your name, is DJ LeMahieu on the Yankee opening day roster or not? Which way are you leaning?
Say that again. I'm so sorry. Say it again.
You have to bet all the money that you've ever made in your life. Is DJ LeMahieu on the Yankee roster on opening day or no? Yeah, I think your reaction says it all, though, right? Like your silence is deafening because I don't think he is. And I think even the smartest minds out there would tell you, I don't know. I have no idea. So to me, I don't know if you're the Yankees, how do you go into 2025 thinking DJ LeMahieu is a shoo-in for the backup first base role, the third base role, wherever you want him to play? How do you go into the year determining that? You have no idea. And I think, to me, you have to cover all your bases as if DJ LeMahieu isn't on this team. And if he comes out in spring training and he's hitting 600 and having a Greg Bird type spring training, then you let him make the roster and you see what he can give you. But at this point, DJ LeMahieu is an older player who's had numerous injuries over the last few years. I don't think there's much belief that he's going to all of a sudden figure things out and turn it around. We'll certainly see. But Stacey, you not giving me a response, and then all of we'll talk to John Heyman on Wednesday or Thursday when the interview comes out. We'll ask him, what's the future of DJ LeMahieu? We'll see what he gives us. Yeah. I can almost guarantee you he's going to say the same thing. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
No one knows.
Spoiler alert. We're interviewing John Heyman for this week's interview episode. Yeah. Just so you know.
So I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's a good way to break it, but I don't know what the possible I really hope dearly as a Yankee fan that they're not going into 2025 with a hope for DJ LeMahieu to do something on this roster. Because if they are, I think it's a grave mistake.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would hope that too. I'm just thinking as a person who's watched this team do things.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it right now, though. It does feel like that's the plan going into next year.
Speaking of DJ LeMahieu, he's another one whose numbers were totally inflated by 2019. And yes, he had a solid 2020, but things started going downhill, and because no one expected that from him, because like you said, when they brought him over, he wasn't supposed to be this superstar infielder. No. He was supposed to be the utility infielder. Troy Tulowitzki started opening day. DJ LeMahieu was on the bench. And then the juice balls helped him hit more home runs as a Yankee than he ever did in Coors. like 2 years combined.
When he came over, he was supposed to be this really nice player they acquired.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really elite fielder, good average bat. That's what he was supposed to be. All of a sudden, he turned into a power hitter and a guy that's hitting 360. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad player either. I like his game.
No,
I really do.
No.
But for what they're expecting at this point, sometimes we've said this before. Sometimes you have to sit and admit that you might have made the wrong call on a signing.
Sure.
And I think the 6-year deal is one of those that the Yankees are going to have to sit back and admit that wasn't the right call on DJ.
I wonder how many other teams were impacted by players who were impacted by the juiced balls. You know what I mean? Where they either, Ooh. Wonder if I could get someone I know who's really into researching and stuff to research that and look at players and contracts and anything that happened within 2020 and 2021 because of what happened in 2019.
Who is name the 5 MLB players that are currently sitting in a jacuzzi somewhere in their backyard that are only in there because they signed a contract after the juice ball year.
Yeah, that'd be something interesting. All right, coming up next, let's talk about how the Yankees have done in the offseason compared to their AL East rivals. We're back. So I thought this was interesting. I thought about this over the weekend because of what happened with Corbin Burnes. So Corbin Burnes, in case you guys didn't know, he's an Arizona Diamondback now. That I'm not going to blame Baltimore for that. He lives in Arizona. I think he wanted to be in Arizona, but Baltimore didn't even really try. That's my problem with what's happening with Baltimore. And let's start with Baltimore. We'll go through all the AL East teams and then compare what the Yankees have done this offseason. Baltimore has a new owner.
Mm-hmm.
They have money. They have all these young players that have been touted for what feels like decades at this point, because everyone was talking about Baltimore was going to be the team. Baltimore is going to be good till 2032. They have all these young teams, talking about. I mean, I'll admit it. I joked about that. I'm like, oh yeah, they're going to be good until at least the 2030s, the early 2030s. It's going to be Baltimore. It's going to be this team that churns out all these players. Why aren't you going after people? You don't hear Baltimore in any of the discussions of any of the free agents that have been signed by anyone. Why weren't they in on Juan Soto? They could have been on Juan Soto.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I think first on the Burnes thing before, I think he got a crazy amount of money. Honestly, Corbin Burnes signing for $35 million a year. I love Corbin Burnes as a pitcher, but I love even more times a million the Max Fried deal over the Corbin Burnes deal. Love it. For the amount of more money that Corbin Burnes got, they're very close to the same player. So that one makes no sense to me. David Rubenstein is worth about $6 billion. He's the new owner of the Baltimore Orioles. And I want to compare this to other sports, Stacey, because what is the notion in the NFL of how teams win and when is the best time to win? The best time to win is when you draft a young quarterback who is making no money at all, and you can invest that money into the rest of your roster. And it's the same in hockey. You have a great goaltender who's making no money. You invest the money into other positions while he's making nothing, because at some point you are going to have to pay that superstar player like they're a superstar, and that money's going to dry up, and then you're not going to have money to spread around the rest of the team. The Baltimore Orioles are in position right now where they are paying not one, not two, but all of their superstars no money. All of them are pre-arbitration, making about $800,000 next year. And they are making no moves financially. I'm sorry, Tyler O'Neill. Anthony Santander is out there still. One of their most prolific offensive bats over the last 5 years, 6 years. No sniffs from them on that. They barely sniffed on Corbin Burnes. It's not like they're working on massive extensions for the young players, but I don't know, if you're an Orioles fan, how you sit here and have confidence in this team, in this ownership group. This is a really bad look going into your first year as an owner, not making any moves financially.
Because that's the thing.
And it's a bad look for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, Baltimore fans were so excited to have new ownership. Like the Mets fans were happy to have new ownership when the Wilpons finally got rid of it. You know, finally gave it to Steve Cohen. And Baltimore fans are livid. I follow a bunch on social media, and they're just like, what are they doing? Why aren't you doing this? They really thought that this new ownership was going to come in and be different. And so far,
well, they had that same they had that same problem the Mets had with the Angelos family. They just refused to spend money. They just didn't want to spend money on anyone. They gave Chris Davis that deal. They were burned on it, and they felt like we're just never making a deal ever again.
That might play a role in why the Orioles are a little afraid of giving away long-term deals like that.
But I mean, new ownership, that shouldn't affect them at all. That deal's got to be paid off by now. I mean, I know that deal did have a lot of escalators later on. Like it was deferred, a lot of it.
Yeah.
But still, they're not paying Chris Davis some exuberant amount of money where it's bankrupting David Rubenstein. I don't get it. The ballpark's mostly full now. It's a great ballpark, great young players. I don't understand this. I don't get it. This to me is the time to strike. This to me is the time. Corbin Burns signed a 6-year deal, Stacey. They could have given him a 6-year deal for $36 million a year if they really wanted to keep him. Yeah. And by that point, all of their top players need to get paid in 6 years. Corbin Burns' deal is over. You'd only be paying him through these guys' rookie contracts. I wish I could give you a reason, and I wish I can give you an explanation for why the Orioles are doing what they're doing. They should be one of the major free agent players in Major League Baseball right now, and they have been involved in nobody. I don't get it.
Next up, Boston. They've made moves.
Yeah.
People didn't expect them to. You know, they were, I mean, I'm sure it was driving up the price for Soto, but they were in those rumors about Soto, and they were in other rumors about other guys. They trade for Garrett Crochet. They signed Walker Buehler. You know, they've made some moves, at least compared to other AL East teams.
Yeah, and they bring back Brian Bello, who is one of their top pitching prospects, who came into last year pitching really well. Kind of faded off towards the end, but really started the year off really great. They have a solid young pitching staff. I think they've upgraded with veterans, which is a really good move. Their offense isn't terrible. It's not great. It's not terrible. They are clearly building towards something. There is clearly, I don't think a lot of fan bases can have a problem when they see growth towards something. They see a plan. They see a mission statement going towards something. Fan bases get bothered when they don't see that at all. And that's the problem with Baltimore, is you're not seeing that at all. Whereas the Red Sox, will they be competitive this year? I think for most of the year. I think it'll probably go a lot of like last year went, where they'll be a competitive team probably through the trade deadline, and then they'll probably peter off sometime towards mid to late August. And that'll result in 78, 79 wins, and that's a good improved year for the Red Sox.
I think they'll win more than that.
Really?
They won more than that this year, didn't they?
You think they're going to be like an 85-win team next year? How much is the improvement? I mean, the pitching got better.
Because they weren't expected to win that much this year, and they did.
They went 500 last year. They went 81 and 81 last year.
Right. People were expecting them to win like 75 games. I could see them winning like 83, like maybe go up by 2, 3, maybe 4. Yeah, I could see that happening.
I think you signed for that as a Red Sox fan. I do.
But the thing about Baltimore, you mentioned how they're not seeing things. I think they were. They were seeing like 2, 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
They were seeing it, but now they've hit a wall where they're like, okay, so what's happening here? Because everything was supposed to kind of take off in a direction, and now we're just kind of like, they've kind of plateaued a little bit because they're not making moves.
And it seems like that's the Red Sox plan. Is if you're a Yankee fan, you should be scared of that in 2 or 3 years, because we know the Red Sox are willing to spend money, and clearly they're looking to be players in the financial market, because they were in on the Juan Soto rumors, and from all accounts, they were in on Juan Soto. We don't know for sure. We'll never know for sure. From all accounts, they were actually in on Juan Soto. So if that's the truth, if they were in on Juan Soto, they're willing to spend money. Stacey, in 2 or 3 years, when the Red Sox prospects are, molding and coming up and becoming these really solid players, what's going to happen? They're going to look to spend money at that point. So, and they're kind of doing it the right way, where you build up your farm system, let your own players come up, let them become superstars, and then pay other guys while they're making no money. That's the position Baltimore's in right now, which is why them doing nothing right here, it makes no sense at all.
Right. Tampa, I mean, can you really do anything? Because, you're going to be playing in the Yankees minor league stadium because your roof was destroyed in a hurricane. They don't usually make crazy moves anyway. Although the A's have signed some people and they're playing in a minor league baseball stadium for the next few years while they wait for a new stadium to be built. But Tampa doesn't really do anything. And, it's much of nothing for them.
Yeah, I'm actually in Tampa Bay and I drove past the Trop the other day just to kind of see it. It is as much of a disaster as you'd expect. There is literally no roof on the building. It looks like, the old white roof that was on the Trop. It's not there anymore. It looks like a war zone. The whole parking lot has like garbage in it and debris in it still. It looks like a war zone, like legitimately. So they're going to be playing in the Yankees spring training facility the entire year. What draws that to a free agent? Why would any free agent look to sign there? There isn't one. So you have that working against you. But for some reason, Tampa always winds up better than we think they're going to be. Always. They won 80 games last year. How? I don't know. I have no idea. But I don't think they're expecting much out of them. They're looking for a new stadium. There seems to be a lot of things off the baseball field that is involved with Tampa right now, which is very strange. So I don't expect much out of them next year, and I don't expect many moves to be made for them before the deadline.
Yeah. And then Toronto is a whole lot of we tried coming from them. Like they're always in on people, but the person goes somewhere else. They're in on trades. Then they're not in on trades because the guy goes somewhere else. They're in on signings and then the guy signs somewhere else. So their fans are just as frustrated as Baltimore fans because what are we doing? That's basically what their attitude is right now, those fans. What are we doing? Why are we even sitting here hoping for something to happen when our ownership and front office refuse to do anything?
I'd say give them credit for being involved. I would definitely give them credit for always being involved. They're not like the White Sox. They're always involved. But I don't know how you could expect much out of them next year. Their goal going into next year is to hope that Vlad Jr. decides to stay.
Right.
And then they're going to have to give him one of those deals that they were trying to give Juan Soto. So now you're going to give your own player that you've already had losing seasons with a $300 million deal where it's going to leave you not a lot of room to make other signings. Right. So it's I could see them being better for sure. They should be better than they were last year. But Stacey, they're in a really, really bad spot as a franchise because every time a top tier player becomes available, they can't get themselves involved.
I have to bring this up because I'm looking at the comments because we're live.
Sure.
No, that's not it. That's it. The chat jumps up when I try to press things. If the Yankees don't bring in, I'm assuming that's Bregman, we are a 60-win team. Really?
Yeah. That's a little boisterous.
The Yankees have not been a 60-win team since, even in their worst years in the late 80s, early 90s, they weren't that bad. And I'm trying to think about when they were really bad in the CBS years, like after that really long run.
I don't think it ever got that bad.
I don't think it ever got that bad. It's not going to be that bad. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to get that bad, especially now.
Yeah. So when you think about the offseason,
the last in the 60s win year the Yankees had was 1915. They went 69-83.
Right. Like, hello? It's been 110 years at this point.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the offseason, compared to the AL East, and honestly, compared to a lot of other teams, the Yankees, aside from losing Juan Soto, and I know you lost Juan Soto. I know. We know. It's done. We don't have Juan Soto. He's gone. Say hi to him in Queens. But aside from that, they've made some great moves.
Yeah.
They really have. And I think they still have things up their sleeve. It's not over. It's December 30th as we record this. There are still moves to be made. I think there are still things that can be done before they report to spring training in February and start playing games in March. I think, as you said in segment 1, there probably is a plan for them to upgrade at the trade deadline because that is always an option. Because as long as they do fine in the first half of the season and they're up in the AL East, there are always improvements to be made. And they have guys to trade to other teams to make those moves. It's not unheard of. I think they're in a great position, even without Juan Soto.
they've by far been the most active team in the major leagues this offseason. By far. They've upgraded their team in most positions that they need to. They've gotten much better in the bullpen, much better in the pitching staff, which already was a strength. They've gotten much better in their lineup. I don't have a problem with this offseason. I hope there's a few other miscellaneous smaller moves, but I don't think as a Yankee fan, especially after moving Juan Soto, after losing Juan Soto, that there is no better reaction they could have had this offseason. I mean, in all reality, as a Yankee fan, if you expected more, I think you're crazy. But this is as good as an offseason, as a rebound, as a pivot as you could have possibly had.
And if you were expecting less, you're happy because they made moves. Because there were people, I've spoken about this, I'll just say this briefly before we end, but there were people who were just expecting the Yankees to roll over and be like, okay, we didn't get Juan Soto.
Clearly wasn't the plan.
No, that wasn't the plan. So as Brian spoiled for everyone.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. This is good. We're drumming up interest. We are interviewing Jon Heyman, MLB insider Jon Heyman. I'm very excited about this because he follows me on Twitter. Not that I've been on Twitter in almost 2 months now, but I've never had an actual conversation with him. So I'm very excited about this. I'm excited to learn about, his entire career and how it started. And we're going to ask him a bunch of questions. And I have made the executive decision that we are going to put it up on New Year's Day because a lot of you will probably be hungover from partying on New Year's Day and you'll want something to listen to. So the Jon Heyman interview will be posted on Wednesday. Look out for it. But obviously you can listen to it whenever you want. And then we'll do Fan Mail Friday on Friday. So that's what we're going to do. So thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. And thank you for joining us for the live episode. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully, because I forgot to say his name on Friday, brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And yes, I realized it when I was editing. I said baseball guru brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball. And I thought, how did I not say Sully's name? So I actually put it up on the screen if you were watching it on YouTube. So things happen. So that does it for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We will catch you guys Wednesday.